What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, latest and updates, and everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi went 3.19% in the green today. Absolutely epic day across the board. 1551 the low, 1595 the high. So you did have a lot of weird type of scenarios playing out again with SoFi because first thing, you did have the market really move higher. SoFi did lag, and I'm going to talk on why that did happen, but ultimately the market just had massive FOMO today because of the recent ceasefire, and as well White House alluding to numerous kind of tariff deals coming before July the 4th. So market absolutely loved that. In SoFi's case, you had it go down momentarily. Luckily enough, greater forces did really prevail and really push it higher, but SoFi did get a new rating, sell $13 price target, Bank of America, and Analyst has a 63% success rating. I do believe that this was actually posted after hours yesterday, but nonetheless, market was kind of digesting that once it opened today. But it is a couple of things to note. Bank of America has largely been bearish on the broader market for the last month and a half. And for those of you that do remember, they did state that you should actually short the S&P. And since they actually mentioned that, it's gone nothing but higher. So got to take all of everything coming out from that firm with a grain of salt. But $13 price target, given where SoFi's at, of course, that would cause a little bit of a pullback. But like I said, greater forces did prevail. We had a lot of good macro data points that did come out, a lot of Fed speakers. And so you kind of had mixed data. So you had Bessent coming out stating that we're going to have most likely higher for longer for the interest rates. And Powell mentioned the exact same thing. He just said dependent on, of course, data, but that's kind of ruling out the whole July rate cut, which is unfortunate. And given a normal day would have really caused the market to go lower, but there is legitimate FOMO occurring in the broader market. One thing to take note of though is that the S&P did close for the second consecutive day above 6,000. That is a key pivot, psychological barrier. And so ultimately that does insinuate that we might be ready to move to the next leg up, roughly around that 62 to 6,400 range, which on a side note, Bank of America did mention that S&P is going to go down to 4,800. So again, take that analyst rating with a grain of salt. Specific to SoFi though, no news, no SEC filings or anything like that. I see a lot of individuals posting this. So Jerome Powell did mention that banks are free to conduct crypto activities. And this isn't new information. Yes, he's stating it, but essentially this is all very much known information for the last month, 2 months, give or take. So I think at the end of the day, it really goes to show that SoFi really needs to get on top of that yesterday. So that's kind of the moral of the story when it comes down to that. And you did have Robinhood, not to bring up Robinhood, but again, I'm bringing this up more so for stuff that SoFi needs to do. So Robinhood continues to innovate. So they are just launching a 1% match on crypto deposits. And they're doing kind of a unique circumstance that if they get 500 million in, deposits by July 7th, they're going to bump it up to 2%. This is the type of stuff that SoFi does need to do. And even better yet, just get involved in crypto. So I think that's one thing that SoFi is really lagging on, in my opinion. But aside from that, though, no news, no SEC filings from them whatsoever. So it was kind of just digesting everything that did happen. So today was another weird day, similar to kind of yesterday. But as far as shorts, they did return 283,000 shares. 12.85% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 139.42 million shares overall are being shorted. One thing that I did also see floating around is a lot of people are starting to talk about SoFi being a squeeze play. So given the circumstances, if they were to come out, let's say tomorrow, say, hey, we are launching crypto and we're going to do, let's say, following Robinhood, do that 1% match, then yes, I do anticipate a good 20 to 30% of the shorts would just get squeezed out by just massive a push higher. And most likely SoFi would probably go up a good 20-25% just in that one day alone. So it's all comes down to catalyst. No stock will ever just naturally have a squeeze unless there is a catalyst. So again, that's kind of putting the ball in SoFi's court a little bit. But aside from that though, looking at the options, 20 million in calls, 3.97 in puts, 46% of all the options being done were bullish in nature. So people are still anticipating more upside. As I brought up in my video yesterday, big money very much stood out that they are feeling that should be roughly by that 1670 plus range by the end of next week. So that's good. A lot of volume. So 23 million total premiums today, 25 yesterday, 33 the day before. Put/call ratio, pretty good stuff for that. So yeah, the higher highs might be in the foreseeable future for SoFi. But from the bulls, there's a consensus for it to be roughly around that 1650 for this week. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 1450 to 15. So there's still, given where we are at, a little bit more evenly divided, a little bit more upside somewhat, but clearly the bears are anticipating possibly negative GDP or PCE, or maybe a re-escalation, if that's even a real word, between Israel, the States, and Iran. So we'll just have to wait and see how that does all play out. But as you can kind of see, these are all the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So you had that string of selling once the market did open, of course, digesting most likely the analyst rating. Big one right here, 7.3 million as they sell, but big money started to buy it up alongside just the FOMO in the broader market. So good to see. On the dark pool, these are all the transactions, couple big ones that just happened roughly about 20 minutes ago, 5.9 million, 2.2, 1.5. So big money definitely getting into SoFi today through the dark pool and also secondary market. But aside from that, 1585 is where it did close. For those of you that kind of watch my pre-market, that's exactly why I mentioned is that you would see a nice push higher, but most likely it wasn't going to close above that R2. So going into the next couple of trading days, just watch for 1589 to be that key pivot. So just watch for that. 1556 is going to be the next strong support, followed by 1502. And then you have, if that 1589 is broken, then 1643. Aside from the analyst rating, no real articles really coming out on the actual chart itself. There's not really much negatives to bring up. It's above all the key pivotal moving averages. Stochastic RSI is relatively neutral, so giving a lot more good potential for more upside. And as I mentioned, I believe it was in my weekend video, or it might have been yesterday, it's all kind of blending together now. If SoFi does continue this push higher to, let's say, that 1650, then SoFi will be considered rather overbought, and potentially meaning it could cause some negative volatility if a negative data point does come out. So something to somewhat keep in mind, but nonetheless, pretty good stuff. What is your viewpoint on that new rating? Do you think that's just BS? Do you think they have a ulterior motive, or what's your kind of general 2 cents on SoFi? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon and get buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point and bangers. Even a lot of the day trades I've been bringing up over the last week and a half have been absolutely on point. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.